G'day mates, it's Michael and welcome to my channel, your favourite source of animal information. In today's video, we'll be talking about Apis mellifera, or commonly known as the European honeybee. So, let's get into studying this species. One of the first ever domesticated insects, and the most common bee worldwide, it is the primary species maintained by beekeepers for both honey production and pollination services. That's why you should always marry someone in the honey industry. These people are literal keepers. Please excuse the bad puns. It's all I've got and there will be more. With the aid of humans, we've made the European honeybee occupy every single continent around the world, except for Antarctica, for obvious reasons. Now, call me out on this, but I don't think the bees are a fan of minus 60 degrees Celsius temperature. But can you imagine spotting a bee searching for a flower in between a colony of emperor penguins? With the rate we're at with anthropogenic climate change, that could actually happen soon, which is very concerning. Now they're only capable of doing this because the species utilize different adaptation abilities, such as synchronizing colony cycles to timing of local flower resources, forming a winter cluster in colder climates, migratory swarming in Africa, and enhanced foraging behavior in desert areas. It's unbelievable how robust these insects are.
Jesus Christ, what am I doing with my life?
The IUCN Red List has indicated the species as data deficient, so we don't know the level of conservation allocated. You'd think despite the numerous studies showing the species undergoing significant declines in Europe would be an indicator. However, it's actually unclear if there's any reduction in wild populations. Spoiler alert.
They're fucking dying, mate.
For some odd reason, the world clearly doesn't want the bees to survive, with numerous threats to their populations from loss of food sources, pesticide use, competition with invasive species, disease, colony collapse disorder, and climate change.
Wow.
And I thought I had it rough trying to complete my science degree, but that clearly pales in comparison to the bees' struggle. Climate change can influence bees in various ways. One of the most important to note is temperature increase and altered rainfall patterns. Now, this can affect bees through their migration, life cycle, and behavior. Agricultural survival relies heavily on insect pollinators, economically contributing approximately 117 billion US dollars per year. 37% of agricultural crops rely directly on pollinators, and 84% of cultivated plants interact with insect activity. So a bee's niche is pretty damn important for human livelihoods, don't you think? A temperature increase by an approximate 3 degrees Celsius from climate change will cause phenological shifts in pollinator interactions. This will lead to changes in flight activity in pollinators and the timing of flower blooming in plants. For those who don't know what phenology is, it's simply variations in periodic plant and animal life events and variables that tend to influence them. Wow, this is becoming more tragic than a Romeo and Juliet love story. Mismatching phenological shifts result in complex mutualistic interaction networks to uncouple in future climate change scenarios, thus leading to species extinction, or by a simple body temperature increase of 40 degrees Celsius, creating a thermal constraint, thus limiting flight activities in bees. Phew! Is it me or is it starting to get hot in this beehive? You start to see how royally screwed bees are by a simple temperature increase. Now, when I get hot, I simply just take off a layer of clothing, but I don't think the bees have that kind of luxury. Plus, you guys really, and I mean really, do not need to see that kind of entertainment on YouTube. Now, bees are endotherms, and their body temperature generally rests at 35 degrees Celsius to fly, and can forage over a 30 degree air temperature range. This is usually because they have various behavioral and physiological mechanisms that regulate their flight muscle temperatures. However, the optimal air temperature range for foraging is 22 to 25 degrees Celsius. If it exceeds 38 degrees Celsius, their foraging activity tends to slow down. Now, imagine you exercising outside in 30 plus degree temperature. It would make you wish you were dead. Just the thought of running in the sun makes me want to die. So now let's take a look into one of these mechanisms. To avoid overheating and limiting their flight activity, bees use evaporated cooling mechanisms to release heat through its mouth. Now this is about to have some major TMI vibes, but under hot conditions, heat from the thorax is dissipated through the head via the bee regurgitating a droplet of warm internal fluid known as a honeycomb droplet, which helps reduce the temperature of the head by 10 degrees Celsius. Imagine having to vomit to keep cool. Actually, don't imagine that, because that's freaking
Disgusting.
So in theory, importing species into a new area is a great idea. However, it can be very detrimental, as it can cause increased competition with local pollinators, genetic pollution, and extinction of local pollinators. It's like the cane toads in Australia. Sometimes translocation just does not work the way you expect it to, and then you're stuck with a species that's destroying the local ecosystem. And no one wants to refer to bees as a pest. So ideally, creating a network structure of protected areas and agro-ecosystems allows connectivity of genetic populations and will naturally migrate species threatened by climate change to occupy climate more suitable for them. I recommend reading a study by Brown and Paxson, The Conservation of Bees, A Global Perspective. This paper goes into great detail on how this conservation method is accomplished. We cannot imagine a world without pollinators. With the decline of bee populations, there's so many organizations and initiatives who want to help the survival of bees. One I highly recommend is Avaz Save the Bee campaign. The most recent work brought awareness in Europe to ban the use of bee-killing pesticides, using the largest petition in the world for bees. They've helped open new pathways to an era of a more sustainable farming practice. Cheers mates for watching, and if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and if you have a favorite animal that you want me to talk about, just simply leave a comment below. And that's it for me guys, and I'll catch you next time.